Hi there. Welcome back to Pocket Therapy. Have you ever wondered why we have certain traits in our personality? Today, we are going to explore a fascinating psychological framework that might just unlock some of those mysteries. Transactional Analysis, or TA for short. We'll dive into how our early experiences shape the stories we tell ourselves as adults, especially focusing on those hidden childhood messages known as injunctions that quietly but powerfully influence our behavior and decision-making. Whether you're here out of personal curiosity or professional interest, I'm sure you'll walk away with some valuable insights and practical tools to help you better understand and even rewrite your own life script. So, if you're ready, let's get started. Let's start with the basics. Transactional analysis was developed by Eric Berne in the 1950s, and it's both a theory of personality and a systematic approach to psychotherapy. At its core, TA is about understanding the transactions or interactions between people and how these are influenced by different parts of our personality called ego states. Berne identified 3 primary ego states: 1, the parent; 2, the adult; and 3, the child. The parent is the part of us that mimics the behavior, attitudes, and values of our parents or authority figures. It can be nurturing or critical. The adult is the rational, logical part that deals with reality and processes information objectively. It's like the data processor of the personalities. Then we have the child. The child is the emotional and spontaneous part of us, often reflecting our experiences, desires, and feelings from childhood. Every interaction we have, whether it's with others or with ourselves, can be understood in terms of which ego state we are operating from. TA helps us identify and modify these interactions to improve our relationships and overall well-being. Now let's introduce another critical concept: life scripts. Think of a life script as an unconscious life plan shaped by early messages from parents and caregivers which guides our actions and decisions throughout life. These scripts are formed in early childhood, usually before the age of 7, and are reinforced by subsequent experiences. Life scripts can be empowering, but they can also be limiting. Some of us might have a script that leads to success and fulfillment, but others might have scripts that lead to repeated failures or unfulfilling lives. The beauty of TA, though, is that it gives you the tools to recognize and change these scripts if they're not working in your favor. One of the key elements that contribute to our life scripts are what Berne called injunctions, and that's what we are going to explore next. Injunctions are the unspoken, often unconscious rules that we internalize during childhood. These are usually negative commands or prohibitions that can significantly shape our life scripts. And unlike explicit instructions, injunctions are more about what not to do. They are often communicated subtly through tone, body language, or even the absence of positive reinforcement. Research has shown that these early messages can have a profound impact on our adult lives. For example, a study published in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry found that children who grew up with negative parental messages were more likely to develop maladaptive behaviors and mental health issues later in life. These injunctions create a framework within which we operate, often limiting our potential and affecting our decision-making in ways we're not even aware of. Let's dig deeper into some common types of injunctions. As I go through these, think about whether any of these resonate with your own experiences or with people you know. First, we have the don't exist injunction. This is one of the most severe injunctions. It implies that the child is unwanted or should not have been born. This message might be conveyed through neglect, abandonment, or even verbal statements like, "I wish you were never born." For example, imagine a child who is constantly told by a parent that they were an accident. This child may grow up believing that they have no right to be there, leading to a life script centered around self-sabotage and avoidance of success. This child, internalizing this message, may grow up feeling that their existence is a burden to everyone else. They might develop feelings of deep worthlessness, depression, and even have suicidal tendencies. A study in child development highlighted how children who feel unwanted or like a burden are at higher risk of developing depressive disorders in adolescence. Then we have the "don't be a child" injunction. This message discourages the child from engaging in typical childlike behaviors, such as playing, expressing emotions, or needing attention. It often occurs in families where parents are overwhelmed or unable to deal with the demands of parenting. An example of this would be a child who hears "stop acting like a baby" every time they cry, even though they are a baby. They might learn to suppress their emotions, of course, and as an adult, they might struggle to connect with others on an emotional level, always feeling like they need to be the strong one. This child might feel pressure to grow up too quickly, becoming overly serious, responsible, or emotionally repressed. Research from the American Journal of Psychiatry found that children who were forced to take on adult roles too early often struggle with anxiety and perfectionism in adulthood. Then we have the "don't grow up" injunction. This injunction sends the message that the child should remain dependent and avoid taking on adult responsibilities. It can occur in families where parents are overly protective or fearful of losing their child's dependence. For example, a parent who always does everything for their child, discouraging them from taking on responsibilities, which might inadvertently raise an adult who is fearful of independence and reluctant to take on challenges. This can lead to difficulties in establishing independence, taking risks, or making decisions as an adult. A study in developmental psychology found that adults with overprotective parents were more likely to experience anxiety and have more difficulties with autonomy. Number 4, we have the "don't be close" injunction, and this injunction warns the child against forming close, intimate relationships. It often results from emotionally distant or abusive caregivers. For example, if a child's attempts to seek comfort are consistently rejected, they might develop a life script that avoids emotional closeness, leading to difficulties in forming deep, meaningful relationships as an adult. And this child probably will grow up avoiding intimacy, fearing vulnerability, or having trust issues. Studies in the Journal of Marital and Family Therapy have shown that individuals with distant or untrustworthy caregivers often struggle with relationships in adulthood. Then we have the "don't be important" injunction, and this injunction suggests that the child should not seek attention or recognition and should just stay in the background. It's often communicated in families where the parent feels threatened by the child's potential, or even where modesty is overemphasized. For example, a child who is repeatedly told, "don't brag," might grow up believing that any form of self-promotion is wrong, leading to missed opportunities for advancement in their career. This child is probably going to grow up with low self-esteem, avoiding leadership roles or opportunities to shine. Research from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that individuals with this injunction often struggle with assertiveness and self-advocacy. And then we have the "don't succeed" injunction. This message discourages the child from achieving success, often because the caregiver feels threatened by the child's potential, or they fear that success will lead to independence and separation. An example of this would be a parent who says, "don't get your hopes up, you'll only be disappointed." This might instill a fear of success in their child, leading them to avoid taking risks or pursuing their dreams. And this can lead to self-sabotage in adulthood, where the individual subconsciously undermines their own efforts to succeed. A study in the Journal of Applied Psychology found that self-sabotaging behaviors are often linked to early messages discouraging success. Then we have the "don't be you" injunction, and this injunction implies that the child's true self is unacceptable, leading them to suppress their authentic personality. It often occurs in families where conformity is valued over individuality. For example, a child who is constantly told, "why can't you be more like your brother?" or sister, might grow up feeling that their true self is inadequate, leading them to constantly imitate others rather than being authentic. And this child might constantly try to be what others want them to be, losing sight of their true identity. Research in the Journal of Counseling Psychology has shown that this can lead to identity confusion and difficulty in establishing a coherent sense of self. Number 8, we have the don't be well or don't be healthy injunction. This message can result in a child believing that they should remain ill or dependent, often because illness is the only way they receive attention or care. For example, a child who only receives attention when they're sick might develop a life script that keeps them in a state of chronic health concerns or dependency. This can lead to psychosomatic illnesses or a chronic focus on health issues in adulthood. Studies in psychosomatic medicine have shown a correlation between early messages about health and adult health anxiety. Last but not least, we have the don't feel injunction. This injunction discourages the expression of emotions. It often occurs in families where emotions are seen as weak, inappropriate, or inconvenient. An example of this would be a child who is told, "Stop crying, it's not a big deal." They might learn to suppress their emotions, leading to difficulty processing feelings and a tendency to bottle up emotions until they become overwhelming. This child may grow up disconnected from their feelings, struggling to express or even identify emotions. Research in emotion found that emotional suppression, often learned in childhood, is linked to depression and anxiety in adulthood. So, what happens when these injunctions take root? They shape our life scripts, those unconscious narratives that guide our behavior and decision-making, and a life script dictates the roles we play, the goals we pursue, and the way we view ourselves and the world. For example, if someone internalizes a don't be close injunction, their life script might revolve around avoiding intimacy. They might subconsciously choose relationships that are distant or unfulfilling, or they might withdraw from relationships altogether, reinforcing the script that says being too close to others is dangerous. In contrast, someone with a don't succeed injunction might develop a life script where they consistently underperform or sabotage their own success, perhaps out of a deep-seated belief that success is unattainable or undeserved. Let's talk about another fascinating aspect of life scripts, fantasy parents. When real-life caregivers fail to meet a child's emotional needs, the child may create fantasy parents in their mind. These are idealized figures who offer the love, support, and validation that was missing in reality. While fantasy parents can provide comfort and a sense of security during childhood, they can also complicate things in adulthood. Holding on to these idealized figures can prevent individuals from confronting and resolving the real issues rooted in their early experience. In many cases, people who develop fantasy parents are trying to rewrite their life scripts to include the nurturing and validation that they lacked. However, this can also keep them stuck in the past, unable to fully engage with the present and build healthy real-life relationships. Let's illustrate this with a concrete example. Imagine a child who receives the don't be a child injunction because their parents are overwhelmed and unable to deal with the typical needs of a child. This child might grow up believing that they must always be responsible and serious, suppressing their natural childlike qualities. And as an adult, this belief becomes a cornerstone of their life script. They might take on burdensome roles in relationships, always being the caretaker, never asking for help, and feeling guilty for enjoying life. This script could lead to burnout, chronic stress, and a sense of dissatisfaction with life because they never allow themselves to relax or have fun. Interestingly, research in the Journal of Adult Development found that individuals who received this message to suppress their childlike qualities often struggled with work-life balance and were more prone to burnout. This is a perfect example of how early injunctions can have long-lasting effects on our lives. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more about the childhood trauma, be sure to click subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can stay tuned to this series. Have a wonderful day, and remember, you have the power to rewrite your life script and live the life you choose.